Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome into another episode of your WCPO High School Insider Podcast, starting with a fresh slate here in January of 2020. And as always, you can find this podcast on Stitcher, Google Play, and iTunes. We're pleased to be talking some high school basketball today. We're going to be talking to St. Xavier coach Mike Noszka and Hughes boys basketball coach Bryan Wyant here in just a little bit. So let's get right to it, though. A lot of action happening on the hardwood. I was out at Oak Hills last night for the Highlanders' big win, 53-46 over Lakota East in a GMC showdown. You can read that story on WCPO.com. Also have some other news items that we're going to mention later on in this episode. But want to welcome in Coach Noszka. St. Xavier 8-2. The Bombers have an 8-game win streak after losing to Princeton and Lakota East to start the season. The Bombers have had their longest program win streak since the 2007 and 08 season when the Bombers rattled off 14 consecutive games. And Coach, thanks for taking a few minutes. How's your week going?
Pretty good. We've had two pretty good days of practice. We didn't play last night, so we were able to get out on the road and scout a little bit. And we got 2 more days to prepare for Elder on Friday night. Obviously,
you open up GCL South play, as you mentioned, against the Panthers on Friday night there. And, Coach, what are you most pleased with right now, 10 games into the season for the Bombers?
Just the cooperation of the players and our coaching staff. Everybody is buying into the culture we're trying to build here. Right now, especially going into January, February, and hopefully March, it's all about our seniors. They're going through their third coach in 3 years. So, they don't have the luxury of being here for more than 1 year. We want to make this a great senior year for them, and they've worked hard to earn that.
Obviously, everybody knows your coaching pedigree and what you did at Wilmington and no-nonsense approach. Obviously, the St. Xavier Bombers won 10 games last season, so you've almost reached your total from a year ago. But what's the biggest turnaround? What do you attribute the difference to this season to?
Well, I'm not, really at length to evaluate, what went on last year. It's just more about knowing how to win, certainly knowing how to win in the GCL South, which, we haven't even played a game in there yet. But we told the kids from day one that we're going to build our program on defense, fundamental basketball, and also just becoming better athletes. Our strength program here at St. X is second to none, and Terrell Williams has helped our football and basketball programs tremendously. So we think we're playing at a very tough level and playing tough basketball on both ends. I think a lot of times people don't realize how hard you have to play on the offensive end, once again, especially in Southwest Ohio and especially in the GCL South.
You talk about Terrell's impact a lot because I know over the years, Steve Speck's alluded to him and, strength and conditioning, obviously, in any athletics program is such paramount to success these days. But talk about maybe that off-season approach and what kind of was implemented in terms of the weight room.
Well, Ron and Ben are outstanding down there. We actually have 3 strength coaches. When I was hired in late April, early May, and the first thing we did is we had our kids working out with the football kids in the morning at 6 a.m. So that really helped. And, of course, Steve's got a great culture of winning in his program. And then, we got going in June with our scrimmages and our practices. Once again, the strength program was a big part of it. And we continued on through July, and we picked back up in September. And we've just had a lot of kids that are committed to winning. They want to win. They want to do well. They're committed to doing well in life. That's a great thing about St. X. The kids are here for a reason. They want to be the best at everything they do. So, our basketball culture, really, it just needs to reflect what the school's all about. And that's what we're doing right now.
Coach, I'm sorry, regardless of what sport you're in the GCL South, it's all about team, as you know. But I want to make sure we highlight some of these guys who have really led you. Junior guard Kobe Rogers, he had a season-high 19 points to go along with season-high 10 rebounds. 4 assists, 3 steals in your 77-46 win over Purcell last week. He scored double figures in all but 1 game. What has Kobe meant for your team so far this year?
Kobe has a lot of talent. I recognized that as soon as I took over in May. But he also has a good work ethic. He's a very likable kid. One of the things he's done very well recently, and the other thing on that stat sheet, is that he didn't have any turnovers the other night. So he's getting better with taking care of the basketball. Kobe, like the other kids, has a good approach to our fundamental work. to our scouting and also to the way he weight trains. So, we think Kobe's a kid who should get his school paid through basketball. So, once again, that's the thing that we got to build our program up here. So kids get that opportunity to go to school through basketball.
Another one of your players, one of your standouts, senior forward Hank Thomas. He's averaging better than 12.5 points a game, 7 rebounds, and he scored in all double digits in all but 2 games this season. What has Hank and his senior leadership meant for you guys?
Well, Hank he's a quiet worker. We told our freshmen and sophomores yesterday we don't want high maintenance players in our program. We want kids with high motors, and that's what Hank is. Obviously, he's going to Georgia Tech on a baseball scholarship, but he puts basketball as a high priority during the winter. He's just a quiet kid who doesn't who just he just outworks everybody. All our charts that we keep track of, deflections, track sprints, loose balls, all those things. Hank's at the very, very top of the leaderboard. He moves very well without the basketball. And, the other thing he's doing very well recently is, a lot of times taking on the other team's best player. He had a bad shooting night against Walsh Jesuit a few weeks ago, but he held their best player to 3 points. And those are the little things that kids have to understand about winning, especially in today's society when everybody's worried about how many points you're scoring. Sure. And things of that nature.
I just mentioned those two guys in terms of statistical leaders from a scoring standpoint, but maybe mention some other guys who've really stood out for you on either side of the offense or defense.
Yeah, and I'll stick with my seniors. Like I said, it's about the seniors at the end of the day. B.J. Bransford is as good of a leader as I've ever coached. He plays the point for us. Avery Wilson is another kid who's really coming better defensively. He's a very good outside shooter, can drive the basketball as well. Another senior, Danny Grieve, he's out with a meniscus right now. He's a kid who's played varsity basketball here for 3 years. He's a glue type of guy, can do a little bit of everything, can rebound it, shoot it, pass it. Eli Majic is another kid who didn't play a whole lot last year, but and Eli's going to Dayton on a baseball scholarship also, but Eli is one of the best passing big men I've had. Alex Gilmore's been out with an injury all year. We expect him back soon. Isaiah Moore is another senior who plays very good pressure defense. And Brett Gilbert is another senior. So we have, 9 seniors. And the last one I have to mention, too, is Noah Taylor, who going to Cornell for football. And Noah does a great job of understanding his defensive assignment and plays very hard, very physical for us. Those are our 9 seniors. We're proud of all of them.
You mentioned B.J. Bransford, Coach, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about he said I did a story about his sister, KK Bransford, obviously the Mount Notre Dame standout sophomore, one of the nation's top girls basketball players, and they've had some legendary battles over the years. I was just wondering, have you seen KK and B.J. have any shooting contests or anything in the gym?
The one thing I'll tell you is that I'll tell you 2 things. B.J. is her biggest fan. And, during the summer when she was playing on the U.S. team, after workouts, he would always be on the internet watching her. So BJ's just a real selfless kid. He really does well with our freshmen and sophomores. We'll miss him next year, and I wish I could have been around him for 4 years. The other thing I'll tell you is whenever we had workouts in the fall and the summer, BJ would take those workouts back home. And KK would struggle with those workouts, would complain to BJ about the workouts, and BJ would come home, KK couldn't handle the workout again yesterday. So I'm just telling you that to give her a little bit of motivation.
Of course.
Because she's a really good player, and she's only going to get better.
Good stuff. Coach, you mentioned you were hired in the spring. Obviously, you teach math there at the school. You mentioned the culture there at St. X and just the pride in the program. And just tell me about, what's it been like to get acclimated with this school and the school community, and how has everybody embraced the basketball program?
Well, when you're on the outside looking in, you don't know what it's like. I went to a Catholic high school myself, and I was very excited to get back into a Catholic high school. And, I'm being honest when I tell you it's better than I thought it would be. Our mission is men for others, and I can't tell you how many times kids hold the door for teachers and things of that nature. The academics are very rigorous, but it's a great place to teach. And I think the athletic programs are very much that way too. Everybody's pulling for each other. Everybody's working for each other. And I think the one thing, I've always taught humility and servanthood in any program I've been. It's the top of our core concept. So it kind of matches that, the culture of men for others. So it's been a really, really good fit.
Great, Coach. Well, really appreciate your time and insight. St. Xavier coach Mike Noszka, best of luck to the Bombers going forward.
Thanks, Mike, and enjoy the rest of your basketball season. I know you're busy too.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. And again, I want to thank St. Xavier coach Mike Noszka for joining me and talking about the Bombers and their 8-game winning streak. A lot of good things happening there on North Bend Road for the St. X basketball team. But I want to welcome in now Hughes boys basketball coach Bryan Wyant. He's in his 12th year with the Big Red. And Bryan, thanks for coming down here in the studio and talking about your team. How are you doing this week?
Oh, doing really good. Just getting back from Florida, so we're excited to be back and appreciative to be on the show and for all the great things you do for Cincinnati sports.
Well, thank you, Coach. I really appreciate it. Let's talk about that Palm Beach Central tournament. You told me it was 85 degrees down there. Life is good, right? Outstanding performance by your team, runner-up in that tournament. And tell me your biggest takeaway from what you got from that tournament.
Well, I mean, this is the 4th straight year we've been to Florida, and we've had an unbelievable record coming back. We've won 2 of those tournaments and finished runner-up last year and runner-up this year. But the team chemistry, the bonding that gets to occur when we go to Florida is just something that we want to be a part of, and to get away from the gray and the cold and get a little bit of the sunshine every day. So probably the biggest takeaway is just the ability to be with those guys every single day and spend a lot of time with them on and off the court and just grow our relationships and help us get better for the second half of the season.
You mentioned it's the 4th straight year that your team was down there. I know there's some history there. Another coach, you have a connection there. Can you explain that? Yeah.
So my college basketball coach, Jason Pittman, he was actually an assistant at Mount Vernon when I played there a long time ago. But he's been down in Palm Beach County now for 13 years. This is his 6th year at Palm Beach Central, and he was adamant about getting us down the last few years, so we were able to make it happen this year. So it was just a great opportunity for me to be with Coach and see his program and how they're doing, and also get him a chance to meet our guys and see how we're doing. And it's great to get quality advice after every single game, win or loss, and hopefully I took a couple things that will help us here in January.
Yeah, a lot of area teams will tend to, take a holiday break and go to Florida or the Carolinas or something, just to, like you said, just to kind of get away from the gray skies. But have you noticed now, after participating in this tournament for 4 years, a big difference between Florida basketball and Ohio basketball and the styles?
I think the biggest thing I see is Florida has a ton of athletes and they have a ton of great players, and it really gives you a great appreciation for Cincinnati basketball. I think the coaching, the attention to the detail, the X's and O's, and at least this part of Ohio is just unbelievable. So, I think we tend to fare well down there, because every day you have to be on your stuff here in Cincinnati. So, they definitely have superior athletes, I think, than we do in this area. But, I think the coaching here, pound for pound, is slightly ahead of where they're at.
It's interesting. Big Red 7-3 right now. You play host to Aiken, a 9-1 Falcons team. Obviously Friday night in a CMAX showdown. So we'll talk a little bit about getting into conference play here in a little bit. But obviously 2 wins there in that Palm Beach Central tournament. Junior guard Cameron McKenzie, 32 points in that final, and made the all-tournament team. Senior guard Keontae Thomas, 24 points, and Jayshawn Martin with 10 points. Tell me just a little bit about some of those guys and how they performed during that tournament.
Well, I think Cameron McKenzie's taken that next step. He's a kid, kind of fits the same mold as Giovanni, DJ, Corey Long, where, a lot of people are they Division II, are they Division I? And he's just taken that next step, and he's leading not just on the basketball floor, but off the basketball floor as well. I was impressed with how he helped lead our guys this past week. But, I think he took that next step in terms of leadership with our guys. And, he was scoring in the 30s, but he was also doing it efficiently, which is something that we preach upon. on. So, we're just really excited for the way he's playing. And then Keontae Thomas, he started out the year on fire. And then, as we transitioned a little bit of what we wanted to do offensively, he got more into a facilitator role, and he picked it back up there at the end in Florida. So that was big for us. And then we have a sophomore, Jay-Sean Martin, who, in the semifinal, he had 25 points. So, he's starting to come around a little bit, and another guy that will be able to help us, as we get ready for the tournament.
Talked about Cameron and his development. He's averaging, 22 points a game, over 22 points a game, almost 7.5 rebounds. Can you give me an example of, off the court, that leadership and what you've seen from him?
Well, I think the first thing is just, he gets it done in the classroom. I think that's the biggest thing is he's a 3.0 plus student. So, he's always making sure he's the first to study table, making sure the other guys are getting their work done as well. And then, off the floor, I think, in terms of like, when you're out of town, you got to make sure you're adhering to curfew. You have to make sure that, people are at, in the lobby ready to go to lunch at those kind of times. And even like on the floor, making sure everybody is ready to play at a championship level. When you play the schedule that we play, you can't really afford to have an off night. So, there's a lot of things that go into that leadership piece. And, he's really stepping up, opening his mouth and making sure guys are ready to compete at whatever it is we do. We try to win the day and win every segment.
Love your Twitter feed and just the obviously seeing a lot of photos of sunny skies and the beaches. That helps too. But really interesting seeing you sit down with your players on the beach there, and it seemed like you can have some really good conversations, maybe about basketball, but maybe something beyond basketball. Can you kind of give us some insight about that?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things. First of all, I'm a faith-based person, so it's always important to me to let them know that there are things important in life other than basketball. So we talk to them about those things, and then the importance of being a man. I talk to them about it's very important for all of them to be able to raise their children. And we've actually since I've been there such a long time, a lot of my former players are taking care of their kids, and that's an important thing for me. About the importance of being a good father. And so we just try to talk to them about a lot of things other than basketball, and that I have a senior heavy team, and they're getting ready to be men, and they have to make decisions that are going to set up their future positive. One of the things we kept saying to them and the other assistants as well is we want you to be positive, productive members of society, and that's it. And we want them to use the basketball to help further their life. And I've just been a role model of that. I use the basketball to help me get a teaching degree, and it pays the bills for me teaching at Hughes. So, I told him at least be something like me. You know what I mean? I want you to be better. I want you to be a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever it is that you dream to be. But, definitely you put so much time into the ball. We want you to definitely utilize the ball, whether they're good enough to play in college or whether it's through their academics, to get something that can set up their families to be successful from here on out.
I'm speaking with Hughes boys basketball coach Bryan Wyant here on the WCPO High School Insider podcast, discussing the recent holiday tournament in Palm Beach, Florida. Very successful endeavor for the Big Red. But what's the reception, when you mention the faith-based conversation and being a man and being a role model and all those virtues that, you'd like to see your players receive openly. You're away from Cincinnati, you're away from the familiar surroundings of a lot of these players and coaches as well. How unique is that to have that, conversation on a beach where, you're far away from everything from home and to receive that message, what's the type of reaction you get from some of those players?
Well, I think it was eye-opening. It's in terms of faith-based, it's easier to have that conversation when the ocean is rolling and It just happens to stop at a certain spot. So, from a faith-based perspective, it was a good opportunity because of the location that we were at. But in terms of the kids and receiving it, we have a lot of great parents. We have a lot of great parents who are doing a great job with their kids, but unfortunately, we have some who need some more direction. And I think it was received really, really well. We talked to them as a staff, but the reflections from the kids were powerful as well. And some of the situations that the boys are going through. Not to get too specific, but we had a boy who has had a parent killed recently, and his reaction to the stuff we were bringing to them gave great perspective for the rest of our players. So sometimes their perspectives of life are more powerful than what we're, bringing as coaches. So I think it was very powerful, on both sides for us to give them perspectives of what we expect from them, outside of the court, but it was also great for us to learn from them as well. So I think everybody received it really, really well, and hopefully we just continue to grow on and off the court from it.
That was my next question to you as a head coach, and I've heard this from a lot of coaches in a lot of different sports, and it doesn't matter, male or female or what season it is, but each head coach will inevitably tell me they learned something from that squad. It's a new journey, a new chapter every year. I know that's cliche to say, but still, after 4 years of going to this tournament, is there something that when you come back home to Cincinnati and, it's the new year and everything like that, I mean, do you bring something home to your family or to yourself and maybe kind of implement what was said or what was shared on that beach? Maybe that was a private moment among the team or teammates. But how do you kind of utilize that in your own life, I guess? Well,
I think the biggest thing it took away from this year was how short life is, and how it can be glorious one day and be taken away from you the next day. And I think a lot of those beach conversations were about life and how quickly it's here and how quickly it goes away. And I think that's something for me. A lot of us coaches put in so much time, and what's important for me, teaching them about how to be men is to show balance in my life as well, to be a better father, to be a better husband, and those kind of things. So I think if there's one big thing we took away from this trip was to value every single moment, whether we're together as a team or whether we're with our individual families, and just cherish every moment, because we're not guaranteed that we can be on the beach next year. It would be nice, but those things are not guaranteed in life.
Let's get back to on the court here. What do you like the most about the way you guys are playing? You mentioned some of the guys here. Also, senior forward Anthony Felder, I know, playing well, averaging 17 points, 11 rebounds. You got a call from a program out in Arizona about him, showing some interest. Tell me about what you like about the nucleus of this group right now.
Well, I think the biggest thing is they're bought into what the staff is trying to teach them every single day. And we've actually gone through a transition where we were playing a certain way through the first 4 games, and then we decided to change things up a little bit, and we played a little different through the next 4 games after that. So I just think the kids are really bought into what we're trying to teach. There's no fight back as to what we're teaching, and I think that we have an opportunity to be really, really good. We keep talking to them about we have the opportunity to be really, really good, and so we'll see how that goes as we continue on through the season.
How do you view just the city in general this year? I mean, obviously you got some very good teams. We kind of know doesn't matter what division really. I mean, there's some top talented teams here with players that will be going to some college programs obviously in the future, but what's kind of in the CMAC especially, I mean, a lot of hype, a lot of anticipation, even going back to this summer in terms of the players that are on each of these teams and the team success as well. Early on, you could see it in the records. I mean, how do you kind of view the city as a whole right now?
Well, it's tough because you look at your schedule and you're like, where can I get an easy win? And
good luck with that, Coach.
Even in the CMAC, there's nowhere to get a win these days. So, I'm excited for the city. I'm excited for our league. I mean, from top to bottom, it's really, really strong. But the GCL, I was looking, the GCL is strong.
32-6 right
man,
now. Yeah.
They're getting it done. So I'm happy for all those guys over there. But the GMC's getting it done. Everybody's really getting it done right now, and I think that's why Cincinnati basketball is so exciting. If you haven't been out to a CMAC game, those games are unbelievable. And the rivalries that are brewing right now are unbelievable. So I'm excited to be a part of that. I'm excited, at a chance to get to play those GCL schools, and excited for the tournament. The tournament is always electric. So I feel like I'm blessed to be a part of Cincinnati basketball right now.
I can hear it in your voice. I can see it in your eyes. Just the enthusiasm that you have, even after 12 years. I mean, And you don't back down from anybody in your schedule. You just mentioned that. I mean, how much pride do you take into that? We're going to get into the event you're going to be playing in here at Middletown here in a couple of weeks. But why is it so important to challenge your team with a demanding regular season schedule?
You know what's interesting? There's been 2 state champions in Cincinnati Public. You know what I mean? And like the goal is to get Hughes to the pinnacle. You know what I mean? And you know, I think early on we were trying to find some wins and playing certain programs so we could find some wins. And then you got to the tournament and you got embarrassed. And, you know, early on we were Division I. So, you know, I remember getting buzzsawed by Lakota East by like 60 and that kind of thing. But, you know, I think right now the goal is to play the best as often as we can, because then typically when we get to the tournament, there's not a fear factor. Maybe I didn't coach my best game, or maybe we weren't tough enough, or maybe we didn't execute, but there's no fear factor there. So, you know, the challenge of the CMAC is always, you know, great for us. But outside of that, we're looking to find the best of the best. And, you know, we got Moeller on the schedule again, and we got some other top teams. And we typically try to find the top teams in Division II to play and some of the better Division I teams. But we're always in search. And, I think it's maybe a little pride thing for me. I want to compare how well I can do against the best of the best. So, you know, that's kind of the motto. We want to challenge ourselves and see if we can get to that level that everybody else is at. I mean, if you look at some of the schools here in Cincinnati who've had such, you know, great success, I mean, why would you not want to try to, you know, replicate, you know, what they're trying to do? I
don't want to skip ahead, obviously, because you got a big showdown Friday night with Aiken, but you host Woodward January 17th, and then, as you mentioned, you play Moeller in the Midwest King Classic January 19th at Middletown High School, 8:15 p.m. game on that Sunday. When the tournament officials or the event organizers got this together, I mean, first of all, I guess, how did they contact you? And did they say, hey, you're going to play Moeller, or did they give you a choice? Or how does that work out when you have an event like this that wants to get Hughes into the fold?
Yeah, typically, you know, you're just trying to find the best tournaments. And we were in it last year, and then something happened and the game got canceled. I think the weather or whatnot. But, you know, they asked us to come back. We were like, yeah. And then, you know, you just get a call. You get a call. Here's who you got. And, you know, I think it's a great opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, who's the last team in Cincinnati to beat Moeller? You know what I mean? Like, why would you not want that opportunity? So, you know, I'm not saying that we're on that level, but, you know, we just want the opportunity to see if we can go out there and compete, and you know, who knows? You lay it out there on the line. And, you know, last year we were excited and they beat us by like 50, but, you know, it doesn't stop what we're trying to do. And we feel like, you know, at some point we're going to achieve some of our goals.
What is it like, the discussion among your players when it comes to that challenge, where they say, obviously they're going to look at it like, hey, we want to get after it. We can compete with these guys. We can compete with anybody. I'm sure that's how you instill to your players every time you hit the court. I mean, is that something that they embrace every time when it's a difficult opponent like that?
Yeah. The weird thing is that we actually struggle when it's not a headliner game. You know, when there's a headliner game, our guys typically rise to the challenge. And that doesn't mean we win or we always play well, but you don't have to use the extra motivation to get them going. So, you know, I think when the schedule came out, those guys were excited to prove themselves. And also, you know, we talk to them all the time too. It's opportunity, because when you're playing those other schools, then the eyes are out there watching, and it typically draws college coaches. So, you know, for us sometimes, you know, we got some kids that need that opportunity, that need that attention. So, you know, we're just excited to have those opportunities to play those games.
Let's look ahead just to Friday night real quick before I get to some of the players that have come through the Hughes program that are in college programs now. But Aiken 9-1, Coach Ty Cass always does a fantastic job there. Program that's, you know, they may fly under the radar a little bit, but they don't fly under the radar when it comes to the CMAC, because you know what you're getting into. I mean, what do you expect on Friday night?
Oh, man, it's going to be I expect a sellout. I expect an all-out battle. I expect, you know, those guys, we had a chance to own the CMAC last year by ourselves, and those guys not only beat us, but beat us really good to share the title. So, our guys are extremely excited about that opportunity. Maybe in some circles, people think Aiken flies under the radar, but I think they're ranked like 6th in the state.
Yeah,
so
that's not flying under the radar.
Yeah. So our guys are well aware of that, and they have some great players listed there. And I think Cass is one of the most underrated coaches in the city. I mean, he does a fantastic job. He hasn't been there as a head coach too long, but it didn't take him long to get that thing turned around. So, I'm excited. He's a big X&O guy. I'm a big X&O guy. So, I'm excited for that opportunity to see whose strategy works a little bit better. But, like I said, the CMAC games are unbelievable. Friday night's going to be unbelievable. I know both programs are looking forward to that opportunity.
Not only the players, but it goes back to that Ohio coaching, doesn't it, Coach?
Yeah. Yes, it does.
It's good stuff.
It does.
It really is. But let's talk about some of the players. I mean, you've had consistent success, obviously, here at Hughes, but Giovanni Santiago at Kent State, DJ Bruton at Alcorn State, Corey Long at Southern New Hampshire. Talk about some of those guys and how they're doing right now.
Well, Giovanni, just an unbelievable kid, unbelievable player. Spent last year at Hargrave Military, but he's at Kent State, and those coaches call me and rave all the time about how great that kid's going to be. And we had a chance to take the program to watch him play Wright State, and he actually didn't even have a great game, but his leadership and his positivity on the bench, and then like 2 games later he was starting, and it was a great story to tell our kids. Like, look, it may not always bounce your way, but just keep a great attitude. So we're excited for him. I think they're 9-2 or 10-2 right now. They're in first place early on there in the MAC, but he's doing a really good job. And then DJ Bruton, I don't know if a lot of people know because Alcorn State's down there in Mississippi, but he's playing unbelievable right now. He was Player of the Week last week. He had a 16 or 15 point game. He played really well against DePaul early on, and I think he's going to be a star there. I think a lot of people missed out, and I think that kid's going to absolutely shine there at Alcorn State. And then Corey Long spent a couple years at Stony Brook, and now he's at Southern New Hampshire, and I think that program won like 8 games the last couple years, and they're off to a great start, and he's having a phenomenal season. So it's great to see those guys. We also have Darrell Dominic at Pikeville. I think they're ranked 3rd in the country in NAI Division I. So and then we have a couple guys at JUCO, Sean Hawkins at Columbus State, and they're having a good year as well. So we got quite a few guys that are out there right now getting it done. In terms of our program, we're just really excited that those guys have taken the next step. I think the exciting part for me is they're moving closer to those degrees where they can answer some of those questions we talked about earlier. Obviously, we had Angel Rivera. He just graduated from Stetson after having an unbelievable career there, all-time assist leader. So we're really excited about the direction of the program. We're excited that these guys have role models to look up to. I think the best thing about Hughes is that all the kids come back. All the kids come back, and they're at the games, or they're at summer open gyms, and they're helping these guys get to that next level.
When you see those guys, I mean, does it seem like just yesterday they were playing in your program, or does it go by really fast, or does it make you feel old? Is it all the above?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. Yeah. You're like, you see Giovanni, and you're like, man, he was just playing for me, and now he's here at Kent State. And then seeing some of the older guys like Angel and some of those guys is that gets a little troubling, because now he's married and starting his family, and I have several coaches on my staff who played for me, and their kids are now in like the 3rd and 4th grade. So and then everybody reminds me of all the gray hairs that I have. So it's good and bad.
Good stuff. Well, hey, Hughes coach Bryan Wyant, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming down to the studio, and always like talking to Big Red basketball. Good luck to you guys.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me.
Again, want to thank Hughes boys basketball coach Bryan Wyant for joining the WCPO High School Insider Podcast. Big showdown Friday night against Aiken. And we want to also thank St. Xavier coach Mike Noszka for joining us earlier in this episode as well. That's all we have for you today. We'll talk to you next week.